The show's just getting rolling, and the guy that's going to help us build some viewers is this next fella.
Is that why I'm here?
That's why you're here, to build ratings. I want you to join me in celebrating the 1,000th podcast, the greatest podcast in America, WTF, the great Marc Maron, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the show.
Thank you, buddy. Nice to be here. This is it's got a sort of public access charm.
It's good, doesn't it?
Public access is back.
Isn't it nice?
Yeah.
Same page.
Sure.
Same curtains.
Smaller cameras. So you can do it anywhere.
Yeah. Man. So how you been?
I'm pretty good. I feel okay mostly, but I still have my brain. Most things are going okay, but
You just get finished with Glow?
I did. We just finished the 3rd season of Glow. I think it'll probably be on in May. And it's and then we'll see if we do another one. And then people have to wait a year. Doesn't that stink a little bit? Yeah. Did you like the way you used to watch television, where like you every week you'd look forward to like sitting down with the show, and it just kind of unfolded naturally. Now you watch all 20 at once, and you're like, "Fuck! I gotta wait a year. I gotta wait a year. You don't even remember what the show was about." Finally,
I'm that way with Billions.
Huh?
I'm that way with Billions.
Right, but you watch them all at once, right?
Sure.
And you just because you're an addict.
Yes.
Yeah, you can't.
We go to meetings for that.
Yeah, you can't pace yourself.
One episode at a time, my ass.
I remember I did that with The Wire. I think it took me a month. I didn't sleep for 2 weeks.
Well, that's when I found out in 2008 that I liked Obama personally.
Yeah.
Because he said his favorite show was The Wire. Mine too.
It's a deep show, man.
It's the
like
best.
it was one of those shows where it was already on, and I tried to watch it on HBO, and I kind of checked in the middle, and I'm like, what's happening?
This is the Blockdales.
No, but you can't. You got to watch the whole thing.
Yeah,
it's like a novel, and then you can't stop it. It literally took me like a month to get.
I watch it every 2 years, like I'm visiting a family reunion.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Just a reminder for your sobriety.
Yes,
I know that guy.
My sponsor calls it euphoric recall.
Sure. I watched The Sopranos all the way through like a year or so ago for the first time in however long it had been.
Did you notice toward the end of The Sopranos how the wife kind of took over the show? Mm. Did you notice that?
I did not notice that. Maybe you're projecting.
Maybe. Some resentment there. Some other problems.
Yeah, maybe.
They could cut down on the killings, and we got into the wife's real estate career.
Well, but that was a little. I think that was a little weird about The Sopranos, is you assume, like in retrospect, if you don't watch it again, that they were all genius, but there were some duds. There were some episodes where you're just sort of like, how is that the ending of a show?
Yeah.
Like what is happening? Like nothing happened in that episode.
That's the same way I felt about the ending of the series.
What's going on upstairs?
Huh?
Are they seating the OR? Is that what that is?
There's a dance contest going on.
Ghosts. What? Ghosts? The Comedy Store Ghosts?
Yeah.
They're just excited that he finally has a job? They all know him personally.
Well, Mitzi had to die before I became employable.
Yeah. Your big break, buddy.
Yeah.
I was talking to those guys back, when I was a doorman here.
1986 about?
Well, I think I was here like 86, 87, but here's how it'll date. Because I was only here for about a year, and I was a doorman, and I got all fucked up on drugs inside a year, and I left, with...
the store working its magic on the young people.
Yeah, the cocaine psychosis. It took me a year to get the voices out of my head.
It was great.
But, here's a true thing about hearing voices in your head. When you do, it's never one, it's always many, and you spend a lot of time trying to get them to pick a fucking leader. If someone's got something to say, step to the front of the head. I'm waiting for instructions. But I was here, and I just remembered this. I was here the first day you came back from rehab.
Wow.
What year was that?
That would have. Well, I was in rehab really essentially 6 months. It was from Rancho Mirage, Betty Ford Center, then to Scottsdale, and then Mitzi had me in La Jolla.
Wow.
It's called the highest bottom in recovery history, from Rancho Mirage to Scottsdale to La Jolla.
When would have been the day, what year would have been when you came back to the store? Like, is that 87?
A week in Vegas after La Jolla, and then it would have been May of 87.
Yeah, so I was here, because I remember you walked up, and I was standing there with Richard Belzer, and he saw you, and he said, "Is that an apparition?" Like, and I had no idea who you were.
They couldn't. You can't kill Lord Hamilton.
No, I guess so. But at that time, I was like, "Who's that guy?" And I'm still not clear on that. But I know you've been on television a lot at some point in history.
Hang out in the Protestant circles, you'll get to know me.
But and then here's what I remember is I at that time was doing a lot of blow, and we were just all part of the, you become part of the building. You're just kind of around. Yeah. I was living up in Crest Hill, where oddly there was a picture of you. And
I founded Crest Hill.
You did?
Yeah.
There was a picture of you up there in doing the Tonight Show.
Yeah.
In the house.
Yeah.
That I was living in. Yeah. I was like, there's that guy again. Yeah. But
see, when Mitzi bought the Comedy Store in '76, Crest Hill came with it. That was Frank Sinnis's old house.
Right.
So she put me up there, and it became the #1 party house in the late '70s in the Strip.
Well, we carried that on, me and Kennison and the crew for a little bit longer. But didn't Raymond Burr live there too?
Raymond Burlew.
Oh,
that was Mitzi's masseuse.
For years, I thought it was Ironside. It was just Mitzi.
You never got that wheelchair up and down Queens Boulevard.
Oh, that's funny. So, anyway. So I was up there. I was upstairs hanging around because when you lived up there, I would come down here during the day because that was my life. I worked the door, but I lived up in the house that she owned, and then I'd come down here to make coffee during the day in the kitchen there. If I got a new CD, I'd listen to it in the OR in the middle of the afternoon. You just live at this place. But I remember I was hanging around at that time, because I was doing so much drugs and I was out of my mind. I remember there was this moment. This is great. You remember Steve Pearl?
Oh, sure. Funny man.
I used to, Mitzi, I used to have to drive the fucking Jeep for Mitzi and go get her chicken salad and shit.
Yeah.
And take people to the airport so they could go to the dunes. I remember one time she had a room at the dunes, right?
Beautiful room.
I remember one time I'd been up all night and I had to drive Campanera and Mendoza to the airport to go to the dunes. I hadn't slept and there was no gas in the Jeep and I was late and they're like, "Are you all right, man?" I'm like, "I'm not all right, dude. Are you ready to go? Because I haven't got time for this shit." Driving like that. But there was a point where I used to because I was staying up all night, I used to drive down to Kravitz's house. He lived with Pearl down in, I don't know, it was in the Fairfax district somewhere, just so I could nap.
Yeah.
Because I was so I
didn't know any sleep went on there at all.
Well, it didn't. Well, that was the thing. I would get so strung out that I would have to find some place to sleep. Not Crest Hill didn't work out, and I had to drive her during the day. But I remember one time. This is coming back to you. I walked to the 7-Eleven with Pearl, who was a genius. Steve Pearl was a fucking genius. He was an improv wizard, mostly off stage, but he seemed like he was doing it on stage. But he saw it twice. You're like, no, he's only a genius off stage. But I love you, Steve. I know you might be watching this, actually. You're like, "Oh, Maron making fun of me." So, but I remember we walked to the 7-Eleven. I bought one of those vitamin packs. They have those vitamin packs.
I'm going to get well.
Right, I'm going to get well. Right now, I dump it in my hand, and I'm walking with Pearl, and I go like, "God, what am I taking? I don't even know what's in this." And he goes, "You would pick shards of glass out of a half gram of Coke, but what's in the vitamins?"
Oh man!
Yeah, one time I said, I think I'm doing too much coke. He says, "Are you shitting pebbles with Satan's face etched on them?" I'm like, "Yeah, I am. Satan's face." Coming back to you though. So at some point,
what was that coke cut with, by the way?
Yeah, who the fuck knows? Sometimes it was yellow and
Debbie at Doheny, she was my dealer, and she was brutal with
really?
me. Yeah.
Greg on Crescent Heights was mine, and he was a hairdresser.
Alan Bursky said I was the only one to go to Betty Ford because I was addicted to cut.
I remember when Greg had the phone when Kennison soured on Greg. He was doing these lines and he's doing them and he's like, "What the fuck is this cut with Bisquick?" I'm gonna blow pancakes out of my nose. That was the end of Greg. But you know that
And
story.
Yakov came down one morning and saw all the powder lying around. He'd just gotten in from the Soviet Union.
Really?
Yeah.
Is this a joke or?
No, it's what happened. He took a wet rag and wiped it all up. He thought we'd been up eating donuts all night.
That's stupid. But here's where it comes around to you, like, because at that time, you know, you were looking for, you know, anything other than stopping doing the drugs to make you healthy. So they used to sell this, you know, like the vitamin B,
Yeah.
right, which was supposed to give you a boost and give
Sure.
you energy and shit. But they used to sell these little tubes of it that you would do, you know, in your nose, like you just squirt it in the gel.
For old time's sake?
Well, I was still doing blow.
Yeah, all right.
Right, so you squirt this vitamin B up like you were going to feel anything. You know, you're so tired or coked up. But, like, you know, it was supposed to enter the mucus membrane through
Oh, yeah,
a gel
what's left
in
of
your
it,
nose.
yeah.
Right. Well, that was the thing. I was upstairs talking to, who was that little guy who used to book the rooms? George?
Yeah, little George.
Yeah. Is he alive?
I don't think so.
Oh. So,
He was just into pot, so they died.
yeah, but I was up there and I was talking to him and you walked in, I don't know, just to say hi or to get your spots. And I'm doing one of these fucking things and I'm like, do you want one of this vitamin B? And you're like, I'm not putting anything in my nose. You literally had that moment of like, what? No, nothing's going in.
No.
Yeah.
I was out of after insurance.
You were out. Yeah. Those were the days.
Yeah.
What else do you want to talk about?
Well, how did you get from the store to the early 90s when you started working really a lot on MTV and all that stuff?
MTV, I didn't think I did much, but I always appreciate your intros that, you know, aren't necessarily on the money, but you say them with confidence.
I know.
Yeah.
Well, I looked up your Wikipedia today. I thought I saw MTV.
Baby, artists will sometimes bring you up and like, you had no idea you were doing a one-man show in San Diego. This next guy, he's had a 3-week run of a one-man show in San Diego to sold-out crowds. Let's bring him on. I'm like, is that me?
And you're not starring in Glow. I can say he's in Glitter.
Yeah, whatever. But what happened here? So in quick like secession. I left here. I was here 87, 88. I went to New Mexico. Yeah. I checked into rehab for a month, you know, I was way out there. Man.
Yeah.
You know, if I didn't have pinky rings with skulls on and a skull on my T-shirt, something bad was going to happen to me. I had a lot of things, a lot of mystical.
You had to go to New Mexico?
Mystical system. I grew up in New Mexico.
Yeah, in Albuquerque.
So I did 30 days at a place called the Care Unit. Checked out. And then left to go back to Boston where I went to school. Yeah. And I stayed clean for about a year and a half that time. Mm-hmm. But there I started doing comedy again. I got I started doing open mics after I was like a belly room regular here. I wasn't a paid regular here ever at that time.
But you were back here.
No, I went to Boston, started over, started doing open mics, started doing opening sets for like a hypnotist named Frank Santos and weirdos. And then in 1988, after hammering it out, a little bit. I came in second in a contest in Boston called the WBCN Comedy Riot. So in '88 is when I started working. As a winner of the contest, you know, they used to do two-man shows on the road. There was these one-nighters. Yeah. So in New England, there was about 3 places that booked one-nighters. Barry Katz used to have a company that did it, the Comedy Connection. Mike Clark, Lenny's brother, used to book them. So there was this whole network of one-nighters that were just, you know, bars and grills, bowling alleys, hotel ballrooms that people would subcontract, you know, with the booker, and you'd go do it. And usually they were two-man shows. Opener did a half hour, the headliner did 45, and you had to drive there. So that's how I started doing comedy. Was I opened in the one-nighter circuit in New England, where you'd have to go, you might have to drive the headliner, you might have to drive 3 hours to make $75.
And doing 30 minutes in a bowling alley and stuff?
Well, you're not in the lanes. I mean, you know, the bowling alleys generally had a restaurant or a club. There was I remember a few bowling alleys. I remember having a horrible moment at a bowling alley in Cranston, Rhode Island. Yeah, and I'll tell you the story about how I learned how to do time. I mean, it's a story I've told before, but it's a pretty good story. But that night, I was doing the bowling alley. I was doing a one-nighter in Cranston, you know, at a bowling alley. It was a new gig. Some of these gigs didn't last long. They get the town in on the first couple, and then they'd fucking bail. But, you know, you just drive to them. And I remember I used to do this horrendous joke about plane crashes. Yeah, it was a horrible joke about. It had something to do with. I was a little more shock-driven back in the day, a little angrier. But it had something to do with like a plane that crashed, and there were survivors, and there was a percentage of the survivors that went on just to catch connecting flights after the plane crashed. And the joke was, for those of you who weren't killed, for those of you who lost loved ones or traveling companions, or on Carousel 6, and it was nasty. It was just a wrong-minded joke.
You were young, though.
Yeah, it got big laughs, but yeah, I guess this isn't really the day to do it. I just realized that there.
I learned it about 10 minutes ago.
But so like I did that joke, and like it was a packed house, about 400 people in the bar at the bowling alley. And just out of nowhere, I hear a woman scream, like, "Stop talking about plane crashes!" You know, what are the fucking odds, man? And I knew it was a possibility that someone would have lost somebody in a plane crash. I run up against that. Yeah. You know, and it was like that moment where it was like, oh, shit, man. Like, everything just freezes. And I go, "I'm sorry, did you lose someone in a plane crash?" She's like, "I did." And I'm like, "Well, I'm sorry. I'm gonna do my cancer chunk now." And it turned the room around, dude. You know that.
Oh, moment. Yeah, sure. You just had to have the courage to say it.
But the how I learned how to do time on the road, because I did that one-nighter circuit for a couple years. That was how I made a living. You know, from '88 on, I've been making a living one way or the other in comedy and show business. You know, some years better than others. But I moved to New York in '89. But I still had it, you know, it was hard to break into New York, so I would drive up to New England, you know, every weekend to do one-nighters, you know. So that was the gig. But the way I learned how to do time, it was very important to do your time. Mm-hmm. Like, there used to be this guy, he's dead, Frankie Bastille. He was kind of, sure, oh, really? Who knows Frankie? Okay, the old timers, yeah. So Frankie was sort of this character, man. Like he looked kind of like Keith Richards, and you know he had a bit of a dope problem. You know, it's not what killed him though, oddly, but he had showed up in Boston. He had moved there. He was like a guy. He was a headliner, but he was a guy that would never want his name on a marquee because he didn't want the IRS or his ex-wives to know where he was. He didn't want his name in the paper. He was a comic, but he didn't want anyone to know that he was on stage because he didn't want the IRS or his ex-wives to catch up with him.
He won't even pray because he doesn't want God to know his coordinates.
Yeah, for sure. Like he actually got caught. The reason like he got caught for spousal support or child support or something was because he did morning radio and somebody recognized his voice. But like he was a real fucking outlaw, this dude. You know, like, because I remember the first time I met him, man. Like, you know, he had like the Tibetan death chant tattooed around his arm. You know, I went over like because I was the opener, I had to go pick this dude up. And you know, the first time I met Frankie, he was always sweating. And you know, he always lived. He had some woman that he lived with. But I get to pick him up, and he comes to the door, and he's like he's got no front tooth. And I'm like, "What's up?" He's like, "Oh, you're here, man. I can't find my tooth." And like, so he spent like 10 minutes trying to find his tooth in the apartment. But this is how like I learned how to do my time. So we're going to do a one-nighter in Connecticut, and I don't know this fucking dude. And you know, he's a problematic character in the history of the whole thing. Yeah. But you know, he was all right. He was all right. But and I didn't know he was a dope fiend at the time because I was naive. But so we drive to Connecticut. It's like 2 hours, and the whole way he's just telling me, like he's spinning the yarn, the old timer, the road guy's like, "Man, you got to do your time. You got to do your time."
Like a Vietnam veteran.
Well, like no, he meant you're set. It wasn't about dues paid. It's like I was supposed to do a half hour, and he was supposed to do 45 minutes. Yeah. And the job is you do your fucking time.
And no more.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, or no more, no less.
Oh, okay, yeah.
So, and I'm like, this is like one of my first real paid gigs.
And he's a little OCD about it.
Well, he's not OCD, he's old school about it, you know. Right. So like, and like before I get on stage, like he memorizes this poem he wrote called "The Road." You know, but he's just like, but he's like, all right, you know. But I'm all worked up. It's one of these places. There's a disco ball. You know, it's a seated dance floor at some bar in Connecticut. But it was packed.
So I get up there, man, and I'm new to the game, and these are my first jobs, right? And I do everything I got. I do all my jokes, maybe even a take-home joke, you know, to close with. And I do them all, and I'm like, thank you very much. And I go, please welcome your headliner clubs and colleges all over, Frankie Bastille. Nothing. Doesn't come up.
Oh, no.
And I'm like, what the fuck?
It was minute 29.
I bring him up again. I'm like, Frankie Bastille. Nothing. Just silence. And from the back, I hear, 26! And I'm like, what? He's like, you did 26 minutes. You got 4 minutes.
So where are you from? Any birthdays out here tonight?
Motherfucker. But he taught me how to do my time.
How would Bastille compare to Kinnison and Ollie Joe Prater?
Well, Bastille was like, you know, he was a unique guy. I mean, they're sort of the same ilk, but like, you know, Kinnison was, Bastille was he had a very kind of like charming rock and roll-y personality, you know, like he wanted to push envelopes, he wanted to be an outlaw, but he also wanted to work. I mean, occasionally, like, you know, in the middle of a pretty good set of relatively mundane jokes, he would go, remember the first time your mom caught you shooting heroin in your cock? You know, like out of nowhere. Yeah, and then he'd go back to some more understandable jokes. But like, so that was his idea of pushing the envelope. I'm gonna throw that weird thing in. But like, he used to do this long joke. He was very into, you know, he was a rock and roll guy, and it was like sort of the theme of his trip. Like, you know, he'd talk about, like, you know, like he did this whole joke about cars, about rock and roll cars. I don't remember how it went, but like somehow the punchline was what I want is a Mick Jaguar with a hood ornament that goes like this when you turn. You know, like, you know.
That's pretty good.
Yeah. You know, and he had another bit that I don't know what the setup was, where he was in algebra class when he was a kid. He's like the teacher writes on the wall, you know, what is A plus B, you know minus A. Plus C, you know, over A, you know, plus B, you know, something like that. You know, what is X? He has this big setup, and he goes, well, X must be Phil Collins, because you just spelled Abacab.
Oh, my God.
Yeah.
Oh, boy.
Yeah, he was all right.
But partying with
so like anyway, so I did the gigs. I was in New York for a few years. I finally broke that scene, but not actually. I didn't. I was there for a couple of years. I hit the wall. I relapsed, and I I followed a woman out to San Francisco who I'd broken up with in '92, and showed up on her doorstep. And I'm like, you're not seeing anybody yet, are you? Because I'm back. You know, so like.
Did she know you were coming?
No.
Oh.
Yeah, but anyways, and I was there for a couple of years. Then I got a gig on TV for Comedy Central. I was there for a couple of years.
That's the one I was trying to think of, Comedy Central.
Yeah, it was a short attention span theater. Yeah. So yeah, but anyways, I ended up. It was weird because I was working for Comedy Central, and that's the Mitzi story is sort of interesting because like when I left this place, I left, you know, in an insane, chaotic, you know, like I lost my mind.
Yeah.
And Sam Kinnison had pissed on my bed, and he kicked my door in, you know, and like there's a lot of stories. So, but like the weird thing,
he had a thuggy side.
He was a fucking bully, dude. Yeah. So.
You just keep throwing him blow.
Yeah, you know, like, you know, whatever, he's dead, and, you know, I'm not. So, I feel bad because Chevy Chase actually said the same thing about Belushi. The other night, but like in a different
nobody
context.
went down in a plane, so it's okay.
That's right. But the point is, like years after I left, it took me a long time to even be able to come in this place without thinking, you know, someone was chasing me. You know, I just had lost my mind in such a profound way that the place was still haunted for me. But it was funny because I was in
I was doing something for Comedy Central at the Aspen Comedy Festival in like '95.
Right.
You know, so that's like a good 6 or 7 years after I was here and went through everything I did. And Mitzi was there. She had flown out for whatever reason. It was when she was still, you know, Mitzi. And like I hadn't seen her since, you know, I ran away from this place. And I walked up to her and I'm like, Mitzi, it's Marc Maron. Do you remember me? I used to be a door guy. And she's like, oh yeah, I remember you. And I'm like, can I be a regular? You know, like, And she goes, yeah, you can. You know, like, and that's how I passed. Like, you know, like, I'm pretty sure she remembered me.
She saw you on stage at Aspen, though, right?
I guess so, yeah, she must have. But, like, I don't know, really. I didn't get my fucking name up on the goddamn wall until 2004 or 5. Like, no, it was late, like, yeah, it was probably about 2003 or 4, whenever Duncan was booking.
Yeah.
Remember? What was it? Was it
2002, 2003?
Yeah, and I was, you know, and I was this sort of mythic character in the history of this place, but I didn't have my dumb name up on the wall, you know. And
when you get it up on neon in the original, it's cool then. Here it comes.
So wait, your name's up in there?
Yeah.
So you're the one that they stop at and go like, who's that? Well, I mean, it was actually a big honor, and Duncan facilitated that.
Yeah.
Did you see Greg Hilbers is here? He did a lot of the painting around.
Greg and I were in the same pledge class, and he was a killer. I mean,
no, he's a great comic. But I remember you used to do some of the handyman jobs, right? Yeah, it was funny. Like I remember, like we'd be up at Crest Hill.
Mitzi had him repairing stuff.
I know. We'd be up for 3 days, and Hilbert would be out there painting a fucking windowsill.
He would loan me $5 to go get a 6-pack. He's doing the painting.
Yeah, we just see him. We're like, what the fuck's happening?
Yeah.
Hilbers is painting the window.
I swear, I made the amend about 2 months ago. I gave him the 5.
2 months ago? Yeah. All right, buddy. I think we got a wrap, right?
Yeah. Hey, we'll be right back, but thanks to Big Marc Maron, ladies and gentlemen. This was really fun.